Hello, everyone. Welcome tonight to our street racing and traffic safety webinar. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Spotke. I'm one of the public information officers here at the police department. Tonight, we also have Sergeant Ray Esslinger, who is my boss, and then Commander Dave Lester and Sergeant Terry Hasse, who will be speaking with you. We'd like to keep this to about an hour, as close as we can, just so that we're mindful of your time and everything that you guys have going on. If you have questions along the way, feel free to type them into the question box and we will answer those at the end. Our panel is going to give a brief PowerPoint to talk about a few things, and then we're going to open it up to questions from you guys. So I'm going to turn that over to Commander Lester and Sergeant Terry Hasse.
Perfect. Thanks, Sherry. As Sherry said, my name is Commander Dave Lester. I've been with the department for approximately 32 years and been in charge of the traffic unit for about 4 years.
And I'm Sergeant Terry Hasse, and I've been in the traffic section for 3.5 years and with the department for 17 years.
Perfect. We're glad to be here tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. And we're going to talk a little about the traffic unit, as well as going to the hot topic right now in the city and in the state and the country, street racing. So real quick, we'll just talk about the traffic mission. Its mission is to provide quality enforcement in response to community needs with the goal of increasing safety and reducing accidents through enforcement, visibility, and education. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little about the traffic unit itself. The traffic unit is part of the Technical Services Division. It's made up of one commander, which is myself, 2 sergeants, which includes Sergeant Hasse. We have 14 officers. Out of that, 10 are motor officers, 4 what we call car officers, and we have 4 civilian accident investigators as part of that unit. The unit is a voluntary unit. You have to test to get into the traffic unit, except for the accident investigators or civilians who test specifically for that position. We have 4 shifts that we work, Sunday through Wednesday, 6 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, and the other shift starts at 11 in the morning and works till 9 at night. We have 1 accident investigator who comes on a little later in the afternoon, and he works from 1 till 11. So the shifts are Sunday through Wednesday and then Wednesday through Saturday. The officers are considered rotational or indefinite. Rotational officers come in and work an assignment for about 4 years. And the definite traffic officer is one more like a core motor officer who is on a specialty bike, who, as long as they meet the requirements of the unit and keep up with the goals, they stay on as an indefinite officer. All the traffic unit members are at least level 1 accident investigator trained. Level 1 is the basic accident investigation skill. It's a week-long training class, which involves a lot of math and a lot of science. Most of the officers on the team are at least a level 2, which is one step above level 1, of course, and some are level 3, which is the highest level of accident investigator you can have. We have some specialty experts in our unit that are computer data recorder experts, as well as crush analysis experts. The team is able to investigate minor accidents as well as fatal crashes. All team members are DUI and field sobriety certified. As part of that unit, we have 2 team members who are DRE, or drug recognition experts, who assist not only our department, but other departments. We're fortunate enough to have 2 DRE instructors in the department, and one of them is our own Joe Doherty, who's one of our accident investigators. So a little bit, we'll talk about what the unit does. So traffic enforcement, basic things we talk about is speed violations. That's when we go out, and you'll see us out there with our radars and our LiDARs. A lot of things we do are based on complaints from citizens and certain areas in the city we know that are a little higher for speeds, such as the highways and I-25. You'll also see us sitting in the school zones. That's important to keep our speeds down around school hours in the morning and the afternoon. We also deal with neighborhood complaints. Neighborhood complaints either come in for calls for service to our dispatch center, which are immediately dispatched out to the officers, or they come through our traffic hotline, or a lot of times we get things through our Access Westminster complaint line. As part of that, we do with the abandoned vehicles and the parking complaints. So back in February of 2019, the traffic unit took over handling abandoned vehicles and parking complaints on the roadways. We also work speed enforcement, traffic enforcement on US 36 and I-25. And as part of that, we assist patrols for calls for service, and of course, we handle all the accidents that occur in our city. The team is also in charge of handling the special events like our July 4th celebration, which we will be having again this year, our Harvest Festival, and we also assist the Tribute Garden and any events that the city deems necessary for us. One of the things that the team's especially proud of, especially our motor unit, is we are involved in the dignitary and fallen officer motorcades throughout the state. We've been involved with numerous presidential motorcades, as well as seeing our fallen brothers and sisters to their final resting place. The team is highly renowned within the state, and a lot of times we request for these types of events. And one of the things we also do is the public education factor. That's part of the public education thing. The Alive at 25, our officers involved in the high schools. We teach at many of the training academies. We attend community events, and part of our education process, the complaints we get, we try to educate the public on how we do things, why we do things, and how things are done on our compliance as well. Just want to put out a little bit of statistical information for you, show you some stats for the last few years. If you take a look, if I can see the screen here, I apologize. In 2020, you can see the accidents in the city actually went down. That was during our COVID year. So in 2020, there was 1,961 complaints. It was up 2019 to 2,909. In 2018, it was over 3,000 of that. If you look also, DUI arrests in 2020 were down from 2019 to 2018, as well as traffic tickets were down quite a bit, almost half, and our parking tickets were down as well. Part of that we relate back to COVID, with not as many vehicles on the street and not as many DUIs out there. We're still hunting DUIs and looking for DUIs, but once again, not as many vehicles on the road. I think the 2020 stats are showing you that there's not as many vehicles on the road, which also led to an increase in our street racers, which Sergeant Haas will talk about later. We started seeing an increase with street racing on Highway 36 and some of our other neighborhood streets. And once traffic picked up, given some of the restrictions released from COVID, the street racing on the highways did slow down a little bit, mostly during the daytime hours. We're still seeing that stuff happening later in the evening and early morning hours.
So on the street racing last year, to combat the issues that we had, we changed the hours of the traffic section so they could work later hours. As the commander said earlier, from the shifts, we have one that works from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. And so what we did was we changed them to work later from 4 to 2 in the morning. What this did is allow us to track the street racing entities that were in the city. Some of that was we had to learn about it, and we had to learn pretty quick because of the COVID. There was an overwhelming lot of young kids, instead of going to the movies, going out, they joined these groups, and the groups doubled and tripled in size. So we have identified currently 179 groups within the metro area, probably about 250,000 people with all these groups added together. So besides we changed the hours this year, we decided to join a Adams County Metro Street Racing Task Force, where each of the cities within, or the agencies within the Adams County, provide officers and supervisors, and we have weekly meetings and we share information, we share data, trying to help curb the street racing. Some of the things that we do is we get information from the citizens of where these groups are at, where they're located. We have calls that come in to our dispatch center, and then we also refer some of these to the state racing website. And a lot of this is generated to the officers' cell phones, and then we try to follow around to the groups. We've worked with businesses around here and the owners for the parking lots. A lot of the street racers, they use a vacant or lots that are big enough to hold their groups in there within the city. So some of the businesses within the city of Westminster have invited these people, not knowing what the whole totality of the circumstances would be with having groups of 400 to 700 cars show up. What would be a traffic problem, It just literally when the people get out of these cars, drive around the lots, the safety, the issue. And these groups aren't applying for permits. So other issues that we have is, with the fire department, how many people could be in these lots walking around. So there's a lot of issues that we deal with the street racing. So then there's kind of there's a misconception of if you hear the loud noise, these groups are racing, and that's not necessarily what's always happening. Not saying that the cars don't race, but a lot of times each group will have little subgroups that are part of them, and they'll meet up, say 10 to 15 of them, and they have the modified mufflers and they have the exhaust pipes and stuff. And with these 15 cars, when they're on their way to their meet site, they're kind of raising the loudness of the pipes. They're speeding up, they're slowing down, they're jumping in front of. So a lot of horseplay goes with the cars, and a lot of the citizens they can hear them. These cars are playing loud, and so they're not necessarily racing, but they do still fall in under what we call a noise nuisance. And we don't have that policy here in the city of Westminster for the noise. So it's something that we're working with the courts, with the county courts, the municipal courts. We also have a nuisance law that we're looking at seeing what we can change to help ourselves out. We're also looking to raise the fines for the mufflers, because those would be considered modified mufflers. So we're looking to see if we can increase the fines. Basically, we're trying to find something that we can gain their attention and saying, you don't want to do this. And last weekend when I was running the task force on Highway 76, we caught a 60-year-old driving a vehicle doing 107 miles an hour. And, with his short time having a license and stuff, these are the things that not only his safety that we're looking for, but the other motorists that are around him. So we take that very serious because it does impact our city. We haven't had, luckily, any fatalities as of yet right now. Other jurisdictions have. And so we've had only one, I think a couple of years ago, some motorcycles on 36 that collided, and one person was injured pretty bad. So we've been pretty fortunate in the city. And I know that if you're watching this, you're probably thinking, God, I hear them always. And we have complaints of all along Federal from 128th all the way down to 72nd. We have them from Sheridan all the way up into Broomfield down. And we hear you. I just want to let you know, 36 seems like it's a racetrack every night. I know I-25 is, and it's just because it's the main thoroughfare to where these racers or these groups are headed. We've talked to them. I mean, for the most part, the groups are, the people are pretty nice in there. We're working with them. We've talked, the state has got Bandimere opened up for them so they can take it to the track. We highly encourage these groups to go out to the track where it's legal for them. It's within the state law that they can do their burnouts. And I think they were working on doing their, I forget what they call it, the drag pits or whatever it is. So we encourage all the racers to do it legally. We wish you'd go out to Bandimere, and we would be willing to come out there and meet with you or whatever it is to take it. We want you to keep it off the streets. If so, anybody that's listening out there, it's just not safe to do it on the streets. So what I do as one of the supervisors, and I am the main person that answers to the street racing, and then I answer to my boss. All the metro agencies, there is sergeants that I work with. It's almost 7 days a week. We are using our telephones, calling one another, texting one another, sending emails back and forth, trying to, any information that we have of where these groups are going, we send it out. So it helps the other agencies around the metro area. And I'm also part of the state of Colorado task force that we've set up with, I would say almost all the agencies within the metro area. We're just not the only area that has problems with street racing. Colorado Springs has a huge problem with street racing. And they've got some of their laws changed down there with their nuisance laws that we were talking about earlier, same thing that we're working on. Aurora, they had the 225 was shut down, and they've got their investigations going on with that. They have people identified, and they've also have adjusted their nuisance law. I'm not sure if it's passed through their city council yet, but these are things that all jurisdictions are looking at. We've also have the Attorney General's ear up there at the downtown. They are aware of what's going on. They're giving us advice. We have the district attorneys from Jeffco, Adams County in our area, but also within Denver and Aurora, Arapahoe County. So there's a lot of attorneys, district attorneys that are involved trying to give us good advice to help us out. We do discuss our issues and certain problems that we have with the street racers, but hopefully with COVID going away, or the relaxation of things and the movie theaters opening back up and the restaurants to full capacity, we're hoping that this will also help bring down the street racers within the metro area and give these younger generation people something else to do. But I don't want to leave it as that it's just the young kids. We have information of people up to the age of 58 that are belonging in these groups. So some of them are younger groups and some are older groups, and everybody does it for different things. They do try to raise money for certain things out there. They set up, when their locations, they set up tables trying to sell t-shirts and stickers and cleaning gear. So there's a lot of stuff that they do with the street racers. But it's just becomes a nuisance before the public. Not only the noise that they have, and I know the group leaders try to tell everybody to keep the noise down, to respect the spot. And you'll see that if you follow any of them on their website. They get it. They were upset with the Aurora thing with a lot of the street racers, because that did put a big targets, what they said, on their back. But it's just something that's continually causing problems within the metro area, and we're working with everybody trying to deal with it. Since January of this year, we've had 99 incidents. So when we try to research how many calls for that we received, and we have a new program in there, so we use the term of street racing was what we used for research, and there was 99 calls with street racing. To say that is, I also call in all the time when I get information to inform our patrol officers on my days off, to let them know what's happening in the city. So those numbers would also reflect the amount of times that I've called in to notify our sergeants on patrol and officers that are also on patrol. And then also since January, we wrote 1,013 summonses, not all for speeding. We do focus hard on the street racers. I mean, it's a big push. The speeds are high. We do have officers continuously working 36 and I-25. We've partnered, I'll probably get into the commander's part. We've partnered with Thornton and Broomfield also to work the I-25 corridor, trying to slow the cars down. And it seems like 65-mile-an-hour speed out there, everybody's doing 80, 85 or faster. There's a lot of accidents. There's been fatalities. So these are things that with other jurisdictions we're working with. I mean, we'd all like to have more officers and more bodies, but we have to deal with what we're allowed, and trying to be intuitive to get what can we do better. And this is something that we've looked on a national scale. We read the San Jose model to street racing, what they've done. We've talked to other bigger Long Beach, California. There's officers out there. I've discussed this issue with. So it's something that we don't have all the answers to, and we have checked with a lot of different areas, different states, and see what they're doing and see if we can incorporate or use some of those ideas over to here.
Perfect. And like Sergeant Hudson mentioned, I think the biggest thing we need to do is share information between the metro agencies as well as county agencies. We've done a good job of partnering with our partners on our borders. We got lucky. Last month, for example, we did a metro-wide event, which involved 17 law enforcement agencies, over 100 officers. Out of that, we had 347 contacts, 289 tickets, and 10 arrests as a total group. I think we in the city wrote 28 tickets ourselves just in Westminster alone. So once again, this is not just a municipal problem. It's a state, it's a national-wide problem. If you lived in Westminster long enough and remember the days when cruising around the Westminster Mall was a big deal, I kind of equated to the cruising situation, the problem there. Came to us, we addressed, we worked with it, and we were able to finally get it under control and manageable again. That's what we're doing now with the street racer problem. Once again, I don't think it's going to go away for a while, but we're taking, like Sergeant Haas said, steps to get there and get it under control so the roads are safe for them as well as you and your families. I think we've gone and talked enough there. Sherry, if they want to ask questions, we can answer any questions now if there's anything else we need to clarify.
Okay, great. Nancy McNally has a question. I'm going to unmute her and let her go ahead and ask her question.
Perfect.
Okay, Nancy, you're unmuted on our side. Can you let's see. There we go.
Hi. We're at 100. We're in Sheridan Green, and we face the ice rink. So sometimes they're in the parking lots doing their wheelies or whatever, but most of the time we can't tell if they're on 112th, if they're on Westminster Boulevard. Now with part of Westminster Boulevard closed, that's helped. But they can be on 104th or they can be on 36th. I've gotten caught with them on 36, and it's sort of scary because they slow you down so that they can do their thing between Church Ranch and Broomfield. So if we call in, how do we say where we're hearing it, or we just give our location?
Well, the best thing to do is call into the police department what you hear and where you hear it at. I do know that we've been fighting with the groups to keep them out of the promenade that's over in that area from you. Last year we had about a 3,000 car meet. They took over the entire promenade and then the PetSmart side over there. It was just overwhelming. If you would think about the amount of people that's there at that time, it would be equivalent to what we use for the fireworks on the 4th of July. So you just need tons of officers to deal with them. And we were last year trying to use more of a talking technique, speaking with them, letting them know our concerns, but it doesn't stop the noise. And that's the biggest thing, the biggest complaint that we have. You have valid points that they do block on 36 when they race. They'll have some cars hold back and they slow down and they slow the traffic way down and then they take off. Most of these cars have so much horsepower in them that they don't start their racing until they reach speeds around 60 miles an hour, and they'll take off. They'll go for about a mile down the highway. And when we do get in there, we have a so there's a lot of them get away because of that. And that's where at the time, we contact, as soon as we know they're in the promenade area, we contact Broomfield. We do let Northland and Thornton know because we don't know where they're going next. These groups mostly stay for 1 hour wherever they're at. And then 10 minutes prior to leaving, they announce their next location. They'll meet 3 times pretty much throughout the night. Sometimes there's 4, but they announce their next venue where they're going 10 minutes prior to leaving. So that's what's hard to track them, is you don't have much of a notice of where they're going, what direction they're going. Does that help, Mayor?
She had some audio feedback, so I think she might have self-muted, Sarge.
Okay, and like Sergeant Haas said, the best way to do it is always call dispatch directly. You know, there's a lot of social media access to the police department nowadays. The best way to get direct response from us is to call dispatch center. They get the information to us right away. We get officers dispatched out to that location the best we can. And like I said, like Sergeant Haas said, 36 is definitely one of the major concerns, one of the major problem areas we have in the city.
So, and I'll add one more thing too. We've, as a police department, we've tried to see if we could shut 36 down to one lane at nights. And that just comes into a big issue of comes up. And is it really necessary to shut it down? And if you shut down 36, why aren't you shutting down 25? So there's a lot of things that we've asked. We've talked to CDOT about. They have some valid points when you talk about if you're going to shut this one down. Every metro agency would like to have certain highways shut down during the night. So we're all in the same thing. It's just we've just got to keep after them. I know that we do, each agency, we do get comments on their websites that they get a little frustrated because the police are in the area. We are getting better at that. I think that was the big point that we've talked about this year, is we kind of knowing where they're going. We're starting to follow them with the interagency agreements that we don't have to now stay within the city of Westminster. We could travel within the Adams County limits. And most of the other agencies, when these groups are coming, we all work together, just try to pull something, some type of plan depending where they're going, because every time they go somewhere, it's always different.
Okay, great, thanks. Jennifer, you have a question. I'm going to unmute you from our side.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good, because last time I had a problem with my mic. I'm probably one of many people who I don't believe in giving them any allowance, simply because the victims tend to be the innocent drivers that pay the price. Also, with what happened on 225, I think it's great that Aurora is looking at possibly being able to seize the vehicles. I'm seeing with speeding, and from what officers have told me, ticketing doesn't work, fines don't work, the points don't work, so maybe seizing the vehicles would. I'm an absolute proponent of that. I think that when they are impacting the freeways where our first responders can't get people to hospitals, fire department can't get to fires, that's just unacceptable.
And I totally agree with you. Part of the issues we run into is First Amendment and Fourth Amendment issues that we deal with by seizing a car. And there are certain ways that we can go about it. We are looking into, we're working with the other agencies to be able to do the same thing. And when the other agencies get all their stuff passed, maybe we can get back on to do this again, and we could probably discuss what they've came up with when they do seize the car. But it's not just immediately that they seize the car. There's a lot of steps involved in that. They give the opportunity for them to come back, but we also have to prove who the driver of the car is, in fact, that the car is out there. And a lot of these car clubs are running, if they have their plates on them, a lot of them are using misuse plates also at the same time. And it's just the amount of lootings that we get. They'll bend the plates up on the motorcycles. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they're doing. There's stuff that, obviously we're not going to show our hand of all the other things that we're doing, trying to combat this, but we'll just say that there's cameras involved in it.
Okay,
So
great.
Saying 100%, and we're trying our best to look into that aspect of once again making this, I guess, applicable to what they're doing to have them stop it. And I agree the tickets aren't helping, and maybe what this take is getting those vehicles off the roadway, but we're trying to do it the right way. So we're definitely looking into that. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we have two more questions, but I think this is a good time to talk about why we can't pursue those vehicles or go after those vehicles that elude us or have those plates that are bent up and we can't identify who that vehicle may even belong to.
I'll give that one to you.
Perfect. So we have a pursuit policy in the city, and part of that pursuit policy is based on risk factors and stuff. And does the risk outweigh the reward? In a lot of these cases, first of all, a lot of these vehicles are a lot faster than what we're driving, for example. And that raises. But for us, once they make an overt act, if it's just for a traffic violation, we as a department have chosen not to pursue that. It puts the public in further risk as well as danger to the person driving that vehicle. So we have chosen as a department to not pursue those vehicles once they make that overt act for a traffic violation. There are certain violations and certain statutes and laws that are broken that we will continue and pursue things further and make that decision based on the circumstances, time of day, weather conditions, traffic. But in most cases for these events like this, as far as eluding and speed and traffic things, we let those go. We do not pursue those. It's not worth the risk for us.
Okay, great. Steve Kretzel has a question, so I'm going to unmute him. Steve, go ahead.
Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, good.
Or Jana.
Well, I'm just curious, back in the day when I was a kid and kind of a hot rodder, I mean, we get pulled over all the time. We weren't even going fast just for illegal exhaust. And I mean, how has that changed since the 70s and early 80s to where now they can get away with, it doesn't matter how loud and how illegal they are and how straight through they are. I guess I know I'm an old guy, but I just don't understand how. And you watch the police shows like Live PD that used to be on, unfortunately it's not anymore. Those guys in California, they'd really be open up in the hoods and say, this is illegal. You have to park your car, so I just curious, how can that be changed where they can do that and maybe get some of these guys off the streets?
And we agree, we're a couple old guys as well, and we remember the day. And we do write the modified exhaust tickets. So we are writing those tickets. That's actually pretty easy to get. Problem is with these street racers, you get these large groups, you stop the one car, you're issuing the ticket, and the rest of them take off. So no, we are using that. We are writing those tickets. One thing Sergeant Haas talked about earlier is maybe putting a little more emphasis on that by increasing the fine that's associated with the modified exhaust and muffler system. Including with that, looking at a noise ordinance, we can actually hit them double twice with the modified exhaust as well as the noise ordinance. And so you're correct, nothing's changed. We're still writing those tickets, and it's a good way to stop. It gives us probable cause to make those stops and make those contacts.
So it goes back to years ago when we had the cruising problem here in the city of Westminster, and people bring this up to me all the time. It took us around 7 years to combat that issue. With all the technology, with the changing of some of the laws to help us out. And I'd like to say that I don't think it's going to take us 7 years. I think we got a great jump start last year. We're working real hard on it. We've got a lot of the city attorneys working with us over at the city courts. So I'm hoping that we could bring this down. But again, it just goes back to, the COVID. I mean, I don't want to blame it on COVID, but when there's nothing for the kids to do, and if you go back to when I was young, I mean, we'd have to drive around. I come from a small town, and that's what we did. We just kind of cruised up and down the neighborhoods. We didn't have places to go, and now we're in a big city, and the kids don't have places to go. And so, everything was shut down. Bandamere was shut down. Soccer stadiums, everything was down. So we're hoping that is going to be one of our biggest helpers in that aspect. But like I said, there's a lot of things that we're doing that we haven't discussed with you tonight. We just don't want to show our hand, and because if they're listening, they'll try to find a way to circumstance that. So you have a great point. We get it, but we have not stopped. We are writing tickets, and we're actually probably looking more for the modified exhaust. I think me and the boss have talked to that. We talked to our officers about it, to go out for that. And then on the weekend nights, we know they're on 36. We try to get the officers out there. If you're out there watching, you'll see that there will be officers out there. When there's so many of them and we're limited with officers, you'll see us out on the highway with our lights on at Federal, Sheridan, Church Ranch. Just hopefully let them know that we're in the area and we're watching them. Broomfield's doing the same thing. And if we could pick one or two off, we try. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
David, it looks like you have two questions, so I'm going to unmute you. I think we kind of answered the first one with the noise ordinance, but if you need more clarification on that, and then I'll go ahead and let you ask your second question about the drone. And you're self-muted, so if you'll unmute.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, I was wondering if we could use a drone. You could use a drone to follow a runner. I don't know what legal implication would be for that, but that would avoid having to chase someone. And drones have a radius of miles, so you could safely pursue someone without speed.
So we do have a drone unit here at the Westminster Police Department. We have not used that for our speed street racing enforcement stuff. I know as far as 36, we might be within the flight zone of the airport. In other words, restriction on using the drone. It's a good thought. You know, we do use different camera systems at the department to try to get license plate information to track some of these folks, but we've never actually looked at direction as far as using those for a pursuit type situation. I'm not sure how that would work out. I'd have to actually talk with our drone team to see if that would even work with them.
But we do use Air One from Denver. They're on the radio. When they're up, they want business. And then also we've used CHP airplanes in some of our nights that we're out on the street. So we're tracking them. So, you know, you have a good point with the drone. I just don't know that much about them right now. They are fairly new to us. And then of course the operators we have, they have to be FFA certified, and they are, and they have to be recertified every year. So, you know, it's something that we can look into.
Okay, my second question was, we don't have Westminster laws for noise ordinances, but what about state and federal levels? Can we use any of those laws to our advantage?
Once again, I don't know anything about the state or federal law on the noise ordinance stuff. I know that we've looked at the noise ordinance before. I know Arvada's got one. I've been speaking recently with one of the other citizens in the city who's been sending me a lot of information on the benefits of having a noise ordinance, but I can't speak specifically on the state and federal issue as far as that would go. I haven't heard of anything. Most of the departments I know have their own municipal noise ordinance.
Okay, we do back up to Highway 36, and we have noticed a reduction in the amount of incidences, so we appreciate your help. It's very nice to hear that it's not as much as it was.
Well, thank you for that compliment, because we worked hard last year, and we're working hard this year on there. My guys are out there. They're out there an awful lot. So I appreciate that, and I'll pass it on to them.
Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Nancy has a question again. She's driving, so she wants me to ask for her. Would bringing back cow cops help? So the city of Westminster had a program several years ago where citizens who went through our Citizens Academy then could sign up to be cow cops, and we use them on different traffic programs and when we were trying to observe high theft areas, things like that. So she's wondering if maybe bringing them back might help.
With the street racing program, I'm not sure the benefit of having that. Of course, always having citizens involved in what we do is a good thing. I was not personally involved with that program. I know that we use them in neighborhoods for neighborhood enforcement. That's something I would look at again, I think, for the traffic unit as a whole. But we're dealing with the street racers, they're usually talking about 36, and they're meeting in groups at certain locations, which are mobile. It'd be kind of hard to set teams up. But once again, we're not saying no to any at this point in time. We're looking for all kinds of solutions to what we're doing. And it's just a matter of getting that group together again and finding somebody on our end that wants to manage that group.
Okay, great, thanks. Are there any other questions from our attendees?
Sherry, I want to jump in here something that I want everybody to know. Your boss, Sergeant Eschlinger, we get a daily report that's generated through our dispatch of all the calls that are given to dispatch of street racers. I look at those and something me and the boss goes over a lot. So when you call in, it doesn't go to a blind ear. We're not just blowing it off. We're tracking that data. We're using it. Some of the stuff we already know, where the racers are at, what they're doing, but we want you to continue to call in that information, because it does help when we compile reports, when we are trying to find out where's the hot spot at, where's, I'm not going to sit there and say it's the most complaints, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease type of thing, but we know federal is, I had a car pulled over a couple Saturdays ago, and there was a Ford club that came through, and every one of them knew that I was on the side of the road, and we got several complaints after that, and I was already on a traffic stop with another officer. So we get it. Keep sending the information to us. Somehow I'll find a way that this is going to benefit us. It's something we just started here in the last month. I'm started with maps and charts, and we're using that information.
Okay, it looks like maybe Bruce has his hand up, and I apologize, Bruce, if you've had that up for a little bit. So let me unmute you. And then you're self-muted if you want to unmute. Bruce, we can't hear you if you're trying to talk. All right, I don't know if he's not able to get through. All right, I don't see any other questions. We're going to wrap up here just real quick, unless someone pops a question into the chat or raises their hand. But just want to reiterate that this is an important topic to the police department. We recognize that it's truly frustrating for you out there, and it seems like at times that we aren't doing anything, but our citizen survey showed that, you know, this was an important topic to the community. Our traffic unit is dedicated to this. They've adjusted their hours and are really taking it seriously. I think some kudos are going to go to Sergeant Hasse from me. Obviously, just tracking down and following these groups that's a job in and of itself. They use social media a lot, and like he said, they only change things up at about 10 minutes before it's time, but they're all following it, and we're trying to catch up. So he's really made connections with some of the leaders of these car clubs, and had some conversations about the concerns that our neighbors have had, and made good connections with a lot of our businesses, and explained by allowing these car clubs to use their parking lots kind of what it's doing in our community. So we really are working on it. We realize it's still out there, and it's a daily process, but wanted you guys to know and hear from us firsthand, and be able to ask any questions that you guys had about this. So we appreciate you guys joining us. Gentlemen, do you have anything else tonight?
No, once again, thanks for everybody joining us this evening. We appreciate that. And if Bruce has a comment or question, you can also email us, and we'll be glad to answer any questions he has. So thanks for taking the time. And like Sergeant Hasse and I said, this is very important to the city as well as the department as a whole. It involves not only the traffic unit, but patrol and investigation. So we're working on it. Hopefully we'll get there sometime soon. So thanks for tuning in tonight. We appreciate your time.
And please continue to reach out to us with questions or concerns or hot spots or things that you guys are seeing. You know, there's 187 of us or so. I may be off on that number, but you guys are out there. You live in the communities. If there's a spot that seems like it's kind of amping up, or you're seeing car clubs with the warm weather starting to meet, please feel free to reach out to us. We appreciate that extra set of eyes and that extra set of information. So you can always do it through Nextdoor or email or call us. Several ways to get a hold of us. So with that being said, I don't see any other questions. So I think we'll go ahead and call it a night and let everybody get on enjoying the warm weather. Take care. And he just said from 84th Avenue from Federal to Lowell. So that's another area to keep an eye on. So all right,
Good.
Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.